The 14th day of Advent reminds us that in a warring world, we need a peacemaker. Now, Isaiah called Christ the Prince of Peace, and he promised a day when, as he said in chapter 2, many peoples will come and say, "Let us go to the house of the Lord, to the temple of the God of Jacob, for he will teach us his ways. He will judge between the nations and settle disputes for many peoples, and they will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, and nation will not take up sword against nation, neither will they train for war anymore." Now you hear that, and I think that if we're honest, we'd have to say that of all the promises of Christ's coming, this is the most disappointing. I mean, where is the fulfillment? In 2,000 years. I mean, think of World War I, where long Christianized European nations ruled by one family, the royal cousins descended from Queen Victoria, happily marched off to the most murderous war in human history. Obviously, peace on earth has got to start small too. And that's what Jesus came to do. Paul tells us in Ephesians chapter 2 that Jesus started with the very worst conflict in history. Jesus came, Maranatha, to reconcile Jew and Gentile. Paul says in chapter 2, he himself is our peace, who has made the two groups, Jews and Gentiles, into one, and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility between them. His purpose was to create in himself one new humanity out of the two, making peace, and in that one body to reconcile both of them to God through the cross, by which he put to death their hostility. Now, if Jesus can bring them together in the church, I think there's no one that he can't bring together. So we see how Jesus is a peacemaker, yeah? He's doing the same thing in the church, everywhere it spreads, all over the world. And how does he do it? Well, his secret sauce is you and me, whom he transforms and deploys as peacemakers. Think of the circle of Jesus' disciples. Think of Peter and Matthew and Judas. These three guys, by all rights, would have hated each other. There's Peter, he's a fisherman out on the Sea of Galilee. Every day he brings in his catch, he's got to face Matthew, the tax collector. And then there's Judas and Matthew. Judas Iscariot, one of the dagger men, a zealot, somebody who believed that violence was justified against people who work for the Romans, like tax collectors. He would like to put a dagger between the ribs of Matthew, and yet Jesus gathered these three among his disciples. You see, we are each called and equipped to be reconciled and to be reconcilers with others, to grow past our differences that divide, to find a deeper loyalty, a deeper unity behind those differences in Christ, to help warring parties find peace with one another. We need to start small. So I wonder what that might look like in your life this Christmas. Jesus Christ has come. Maranatha.